close your eyes for a moment, settle deeper beneath your blankets, and let the world around you soften. Tonight, we are traveling together, back through drifting snow across centuries, through winding cobbled streets lit only by flickering lanterns, until we arrive in a long-ago winter in the heart of Germany. Our destination is a Christkindlmarkt, a Christmas market in the year 1670. A place where the cold December air smells of pine resin and warm honey cakes, where shopkeepers brush snow from their wooden stalls, and where candles glow like little stars gathered upon the earth. But before we begin our journey, I'd love to know something from you. Where in the world are you listening from tonight? I always find it magical to see listeners gathered from so many places during this cozy season of storytelling. So feel free to share your city or country in the comments. Now, take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. Let your shoulders loosen, your mind quiet, and the gentle pull of this story guide you into a deep December night, more than 350 years in the past. In the year 1670, Germany was part of the vast and patchwork Holy Roman Empire, a world of walled towns, timber-framed houses, creaking wooden carts, and snow-dusted rooftops. Wintertime was long and biting, but also filled with moments of shimmering wonder. Church bells echoing through frosty valleys, warm fires blazing inside guild halls, and families gathering closely each evening as Advent led them closer to Christmas. This was a world where traditions were changing. The Reformation had washed over much of Germany more than a century before, reshaping religious life and giving rise to a new bringer of gifts, the Christkind, the Christ child, imagined as a gentle angelic figure dressed in white, crowned with golden curls and surrounded by light. In many Protestant regions, the Christkind had replaced the older figure of St. Nicholas, becoming a symbol of purity, hope, and heavenly peace. Little children would whisper prayers or poems and hope that this glowing childlike spirit might leave a small gift on Christmas Eve. But in the days leading up to Christmas, during the crisp, expectant weeks of Advent, townsfolk turned eagerly toward one cherished tradition, the Christkindlmarkt. The Christmas markets of the 1600s were smaller and simpler than the bustling spectacles we know today, but they were no less enchanting. They were born from medieval winter markets, where people gathered to buy warm clothing, winter foodstuffs, candles, spices, and little gifts. By 1670, these markets had become a beloved part of the season, filling town squares with wooden booths draped in garlands, shimmering wax candles, and the scent of roasting nuts and spiced wine. In tonight's story, we will wander through one such market together, imagining it not as a distant historical curiosity, but as a living, breathing place, full of voices, textures, warmth, and 1,000 tiny moments of shared humanity. We'll step through the snowy archway at dawn as merchants set up their stalls. We'll meet the woodcarver shaping toys for children, the baker preparing sheets of fragrant Lebkuchen, and the candlemaker pouring soft golden light into the long winter darkness. We'll taste roasted chestnuts, hear the soft crackle of braziers, and watch the glow of lanterns shimmer upon fresh snow. As we stroll through the market, we'll also learn the history behind these traditions, how winter customs survived from older pagan practices, how Christian symbolism reshaped them, and how ordinary families of 1670 prepared for the sacred night of Christmas Eve. And all the while, I'll invite you to let the warmth of the story gently lull you into a peaceful place. For this video isn't just a journey through history, it's a bedtime story, one meant to ease you toward rest while celebrating the quiet beauty of Christmas long ago. So, let's draw our cloaks around us, breathe in the crisp winter air, and take our first soft steps across the snowy cobblestones. Ahead, the first golden lanterns are appearing through the morning mist. The market is waking, and the Christkindlmarkt of 1670 is ready to welcome us. Part 1. The first snowfall over Nuremberg. The night has barely lifted when our story truly begins. Imagine a sky the colour of pewter, heavy with clouds that promise more snow by nightfall. The air is still, as if all of Nuremberg is holding its breath before the bustle of the day awakens. In this quiet hour, the world feels suspended, caught between darkness and dawn, between waiting and becoming. The city of Nuremberg in 1670 is still enclosed by its medieval walls, tall and stoic, rising from the frosty ground like guardians of the past. Atop those walls sit watchtowers whose silhouettes cut through the pale morning haze. Below them, the rooftops of timber-framed houses cluster tightly together, their steep gables white with an overnight dusting of snow. Smoke curls softly from chimneys as early risers kindle their hearths. Somewhere in the distance, a rooster crows, though the sound is muffled by winter's stillness. The Christmas season has begun. Down the narrow lanes, the first to stir are the merchants of the Christkindlmarkt. Their boots crunch atop the fresh snow as they shuffle toward the Hauptmarkt, the great central square of the city. Many carry lanterns swinging from their gloved hands. Others balance wooden crates filled with wares. The glow from their candles flickers warmly against the grey dawn, tiny pockets of light leading the way to the heart of the city. At the centre of the square stands the Schöne Brunnen, the beautiful fountain, a richly carved Gothic spire reaching upward like a stone bouquet. Its statues glisten with frost, each delicate detail outlined in white. Around it stretches the market square, still empty now, but soon to be transformed into a lively, glowing village of stalls, garlands, and winter cheer. One by one, the merchants arrive and begin to prepare. A woodcarver named Herr Matthias sets down his crates and brushes snow from the roof of his small stall. His fingers, roughened by decades of carving, trace the edges of the wooden counter as he lifts a cloth to reveal rows of hand-carved animals, angels, and tiny figurines meant for Christmas creches. He arranges each piece carefully, as though placing them in a miniature world of his own making. Nearby, the baker Frau Hildegard arrives with 2 of her grown daughters. Together, they carry trays of Lebkuchen, the famous Nuremberg gingerbread, aromatic with honey, spices, and ground nuts. The scent drifts immediately through the air, warm and sweet and comforting, like a promise of joy. Even in 1670, the Lebkuchen bakers of Nuremberg are renowned, working under guild rules that protect their recipes and techniques. This morning, Frau Hildegard's family moves quickly, arranging iced hearts, nut-studded rounds, and thick ginger loaves tied with ribbons. Across the way, blacksmiths haul small iron stoves filled with glowing coals, setting them beneath their displays to keep warm. Tinsmiths hang lanterns crafted from thin sheets of metal, punched with stars and swirling patterns. As the lanterns fill with candles, light pours through the tiny holes, casting dancing shapes across the snow-covered ground. And then there are the sound makers. The small bells dangling from horse harnesses, the gentle hum of merchants greeting each other, the scrape of shovels clearing pathways through the square. It is a music of preparation, of anticipation, of a city beginning to wake. The Holy Roman Empire at this time is a patchwork of territories, customs and traditions, some Catholic, others Protestant. Yet Nuremberg leans firmly towards the Protestant side. Since the Reformation, the gift-bringer here is not Saint Nicholas, but the Christkind, a radiant angelic figure said to appear on Christmas Eve. Children believe the Christkind hovers through the wintry night, leaving small treasures behind. And so, much of the market revolves around preparations for this enchanting visit. As morning deepens, the sky begins to glow a soft silver. Townsfolk make their way toward the square, wrapped in woolen cloaks, heavy boots crunching on the snow. Some carry baskets, others lead small children by mittened hands. They come for supplies, for treats, for gifts, but also for the comfort of community during the darkest days of winter. The Christkindlmarkt isn't just a place to buy things. It's a celebration of Advent, the quiet and hopeful season leading to Christmas. In 1670, Advent is deeply spiritual. Families gather each evening to pray, to read scripture, to reflect upon the coming of Christ. The market complements these rituals by providing the items needed for their celebrations. Candles for Christmas Eve vigils, beeswax tapers for the home, evergreen wreaths for doorways, and simple toys for children. But the market also offers something less tangible and equally precious: warmth in the midst of cold, laughter in the midst of hardship, and a sense of togetherness that anchors a community during long winter nights. By mid-morning, the market is fully awake. Snow begins to fall again, soft, lazy flakes drifting like feathers. The merchants smile and brush their stalls clear once more, their movements unhurried. After all, snow is part of the charm. It settles on the garlands draped between stalls, clings to the evergreen wreaths, and dusts the rooftops of the market square with a fresh sprinkle of magic. The bells of Frauenkirche, the Church of Our Lady, begin to ring, their deep tones rolling across the square and echoing through the narrow streets. Children look up, listening with wide eyes. The day feels sacred. It feels wrapped in quiet expectation. As you stand in the midst of this snowy scene, wrapped warmly in your cloak of imagination, let the rest of the world fall away. This is a place outside of time, a place where candles glow brighter against the chill, where simple gifts carry great meaning, and where a winter morning can feel like the beginning of something miraculous. The Christkindlmarkt of 1670 is open. Part 2. Through the lantern-lit gate. To enter the Christkindlmarkt of 1670, we pass beneath an evergreen archway laced with winter berries and bound together with twine. The garlands have been freshly cut from the nearby forests, their resin still fragrant, their needles tipped in frost. Hanging from the arch are several iron lanterns, each punched with tiny star-shaped holes that scatter soft light across the snow. Whenever a breeze moves through the square, the lanterns sway gently, causing stars to dance across the white ground like shy spirits twirling in the dawn. This archway is not grand or ceremonial. It is simple, rustic, and handmade. But for the people of Nuremberg, It marks the threshold between ordinary life and the magic of the season. Children often pause here, craning their necks upward to take in the glowing lanterns and evergreen garlands. Some whisper little wishes as they pass beneath the arch, believing it brings good fortune for the coming year. Others tug eagerly on their parents' sleeves, already spotting the colourful stalls spread before them. As we step through, a new world unfolds, a labyrinth of wooden booths arranged in neat rows, each decorated with sprigs of holly, pine cones and strands of dried apples. Snow continues to fall, but the warmth of candles and braziers gives the entire market a gentle, golden glow. It feels less like a real street market and more like a page from an illuminated manuscript, every detail touched with quiet wonder. Just beyond the gate, we are greeted by a small stall draped with white linen. Its keeper is Herr Albrecht, a kindly man in his late 50s with a beard flecked in grey. He is a maker of carved nativity figurines, Mary, Joseph, the shepherds, angels, animals, and of course, the Christ child. His workbench is cluttered with shavings of linden wood, the preferred wood of carvers for its softness and fine grain. As he sands the wings of a tiny angel, you can see a thin halo of sawdust floating in the air like powdered gold. He tells us that in 1670, nativity scenes are not as elaborate as the grand creches seen in later centuries. Families typically own a small set of figures, arranged upon a simple wooden board covered in straw. But even the humblest families try to add something new each year. A fresh lamb, a new star, perhaps an angel to watch over the household. For many, the Christkindlmarkt is the only place to find these treasured figurines. A few stalls away sits a wax chandler named Frau Rosaline. Her booth glows brighter than all the rest, for she sells hand-dipped candles made from pure beeswax. Unlike tallow candles, which smoke and sputter, beeswax burns cleanly and fills the air with a faint scent of honey. In 1670, candles are precious, symbols of light overcoming darkness during the coldest and darkest weeks of the year. Rosalind arranges her candles in bundles tied with red twine, thick tapers for the family table, slender ones for Advent wreaths, and the smallest for Christmas tree branches. Because yes, German families in the 1600s sometimes decorate small trees with real candles, though sparingly and with extreme care. These early Christmas trees are not yet adorned with glass ornaments, but with apples, nuts, carved figures, and paper roses. Pausing at Rosalind's stall, you can imagine a family in a snug, timbered house lighting a handful of candles on Christmas Eve, their faces illuminated by that soft golden glow. As we continue deeper into the market, the soundscape changes. A musician stands near the centre aisle, gently plucking the strings of a lute. The melody is an old Advent hymn, Es kommt ein Schiff geladen, slow, lilting, and full of longing. A few townsfolk hum along. The song drifts through the air like a warm thread weaving the entire market together. Just past the musician sits a baker, whose stall is shaped like a little cottage, complete with a pitched roof dusted in snow. Inside, Frau Linnea sells warm Stollen, loaves rich with nuts, dried fruits, and a dusting of sugar that sparkles like frost. Though Stollen would later become more elaborate with marzipan fillings, the version in 1670 is simpler, but still beloved. She slices a loaf, and steam rises from the cut edge. The smell of yeast, spices, and sweetened dough fills the air. For Christmas Eve, she tells customers, one must have stolen for good fortune. Some families buy it to share with neighbours. Others save a loaf for Twelfth Night. In this era of hard winters and scarce luxuries, baked goods like stollen and gingerbread carry a meaning far deeper than flavour. They represent abundance, hospitality, and celebration. Near the edge of the square, we find a stall offering coloured paper scraps, thin wooden sticks, and glue. These simple materials are used to make small ornaments, early forerunners to the delicate glass baubles that would appear centuries later. Children gather here, their cheeks rosy from the cold, choosing reds, greens and golds to craft stars, angels and paper roses. In 1670, these handmade decorations are cherished family keepsakes. As we watch the children, the merchant Herr Dieter explains a bit more about the Christkind. To modern ears, the Christkind might sound like a child, or even a newborn, but in 17th century Germany, it is typically imagined as an angelic young figure, radiant, gentle, and pure. Protestant reformers encouraged the Christkind tradition as an alternative to the veneration of saints, particularly Saint Nicholas. Over time, this heavenly figure became the symbol of Christmas giving. Children do not expect lavish gifts. A small toy, a gingerbread heart, an apple, a candle, these are enough to bring joy. And so, as they wander the market, they look not for extravagance, but for a glimpse of the Christkind spirit in every candle flame, every carved angel, every glowing lantern. The lanterns overhead sway again, casting a warm net of stars across the drifting snow. As we walk onward, the market begins to feel like a world suspended between heaven and earth, a place where simple things shine brighter and cold winter mornings soften into gentle memory. Our path winds deeper now, toward the bustling heart of the square, where the craftsmen and storytellers gather. Part 3. The Stalls of Craftsmen and Storytellers. As we leave the lantern-lit gate behind, the Christkindlmarkt opens into a gentle maze of crafts and colours. Snow continues to fall in drifting feather-like flakes, settling on every rooftop, every wooden beam, every cloak and cap. The world feels hushed but alive, quiet enough to soothe the soul, yet full of tiny movements that keep the winter morning glowing. We follow the sound of rhythmic tapping, the steady tock-tock-tock of a small hammer striking metal. This leads us to the stall of a tinsmith named Herr Volk. His table is covered with thin sheets of metal, some already punched with delicate shapes, stars, suns, swirling vines, geometric lacework. These will become candle lanterns once he bends and folds them into cylinders. He holds one up to the light, and the punched holes scatter warm patterns across the snow. Customers gather around, entranced by the shapes dancing at their feet. Tinsmiths like Volk play an important role in winter life. Their lanterns guide travellers along snowy roads, brighten doorways, and bring a sense of cheer to cold evenings. Volk's voice is soft as he explains how each hole must be punched with care to keep the metal strong. The work is repetitive but meditative, perfect for long winter nights by the fire. Many townspeople recognize his handiwork. His stars have a distinctive curve, almost as though they were captured mid-twirl. A few steps away, the comforting rasp of wood being shaped draws us toward a much quieter booth. Here sits young apprentice Lucas, no more than 16, scraping a block of lindenwood with careful precision. His master, Herr Matthias, the same woodcarver we glimpsed earlier, is nearby speaking with customers, so Lucas works in deep concentration. The air around him is fragrant with fresh wood shavings, curling like tiny ribbons across the ground. He is carving a small horse, its legs slender and cleanly shaped, its mane flowing in neat lines. This is a common toy in the 1600s, a gift treasured by both boys and girls. Lucas hopes to finish it before sunset. His face is earnest, illuminated by the candle perched on his workbench. When he notices us watching, he blushes slightly, but continues carving. There is pride in his movements, and a quiet determination. Apprentices like Lucas often begin their training as children, and spend years mastering each tool stroke. The Christkindlmarkt is their chance to show the fruits of that labour. Not far from the woodcarvers sits a cluster of weavers and cloth artisans. Their stalls are splashed with rich earthy colours, deep burgundy, forest green, golden brown, and winter blue. Bundles of woolen gloves, mittens, shawls, and knitted caps hang from wooden hooks, swaying as people brush past. One older woman, Frau Edeltraud, is spinning wool on a small spindle, her fingers moving with a speed that defies her age. She hums a tune as she works, the melody joining the soft chorus of market sounds. Wool garments are essential in a time long before central heating, and the market offers the best place to find new winter wear. People admire the tight stitching and careful dyeing. Even small children understand the value of warm clothes, tugging at their mother's skirts as they point to mittens in cheerful hues. But not all the colours here come from wool. A glassblower's stall glints like a secret treasure trove, tucked between rustic booths. In 1670, glass ornaments are not yet the staple they would become in the 1800s in places like Lauscher. But simple glass beads, droplets, and miniature bottles are already admired luxuries. Herr Sebald, the glassblower, displays his wares on velvet fabric to catch the light. Tiny beads in amber, clear, and pale green shimmer like captured frost. When sunlight breaks briefly through the clouds, the entire stall glows with an almost magical luminescence. Sebald demonstrates the delicate work of heating and shaping the glass. The flame hisses softly, and the glass glows orange before he stretches it into a narrow strand. Children watching from nearby gasp as the molten shape transforms before their eyes. Though expensive, even a single bead purchased here might become a beloved keepsake passed down for generations. As we move deeper into the centre of the market, another sound rises above the soft hum of merchants and customers, the lyrical voice of a storyteller. A small crowd has gathered around an elderly man seated atop a wooden stool, a thick cloak wrapped around his shoulders. His hair is white, and his voice, though gentle, carries with surprising strength. He tells a tale of winter spirits who wander the mountains, benevolent beings who protect travellers during snowstorms, or lead them to shelter before nightfall. His hands gesture gracefully, and in the golden candlelight his face seems almost transformed, lined not with age, but with wisdom. Children listen wide-eyed. Adults step closer. Stories like this are as important as any purchased gift. They warm the heart and knit the community together. In 17th century Germany, oral storytelling is a cherished tradition. Few families own books, and winter evenings are long. Tales passed down by grandparents, and travelling storytellers fill the dark with wonder. Stories of angels, saints, forest spirits, and the ever-watchful Christkind. These stories often blend Christian teachings with older folk beliefs, reflecting the deep layers of culture in the Holy Roman Empire. As the storyteller continues, a musician joins him, this time a young woman with a wooden recorder. She plays softly, weaving gentle notes between his words like threads of light. The song is tender, slow, perfect for the contemplative spirit of Advent. Snowflakes catch in her hair as she plays, sparkling like tiny pearls. Nearby, a potter sets out bowls glazed in soft blues and earthy browns. A leatherworker displays belts and small pouches embossed with intricate designs. Everywhere we turn, hands are busy. Hands shaping, carving, stitching, firing, weaving. The Christkindlmarkt is not only a place to buy things, it is a gallery of human skill and devotion. Every craft holds a story. Every object, no matter how small, carries a piece of the maker's heart. The deeper we wander, the softer the world becomes. Snow muffles sound. Lanterns blur into halos of gold. Voices drift like warm currents through the cold air. And as we pause in the centre of this gentle bustle, it becomes clear why these markets have endured for centuries. They offer connection, comfort, beauty, light in a dark season. Ahead, the warm scent of roasted chestnuts and spiced wine begins to drift toward us. An irresistible invitation. Part 4. The flavours of a 17th century Christmas. The moment we begin drifting toward the centre of the market square, the air shifts. The crisp scent of snow mingles with something deeper. Rich spices, warm bread, toasted sugar, bubbling wine. It's the unmistakable aroma of a Christmas market awakening fully into its day. If the crafts and stalls brought beauty to our eyes, the flavours of this place bring comfort straight to the heart. A gust of wind carries the smell of roasted chestnuts, still warm in their shells. We follow it to a stall where a young couple, Matthias and Greta, are turning chestnuts over a shallow iron pan set atop a glowing brazier. Sparks flicker into the air, tiny orange fireflies that vanish as quickly as they appear. Chestnuts are simple fare, inexpensive and beloved. Matthias scoops a handful into paper cones folded from old script pages. Greta sprinkles a dusting of coarse salt over them. In 1670, chestnuts are more than a snack. They are sustenance. They fill the stomach on cold days, roasted or boiled, served with honey or butter if a family is especially fortunate. Tonight, as you imagine holding that warm paper cone in your hands, feeling the heat slip through your mittens, you understand why chestnuts have become one of the enduring scents of a German Christmas. Next to Matthias and Greta's stall simmers a great copper kettle suspended over glowing coals. A woman named Frau Sigrun stirs it with a long wooden paddle, releasing a swirl of steam scented with cinnamon, cloves, orange peel, and dark red wine. This is early Glühwein, centuries before the modern refined recipes, but still unmistakable. A spiced warming drink designed to fight off the winter chill. A ladle dipped into the pot reveals wine glowing like garnet, and when she pours it into small clay cups, the steam curls into the air like fragrant silk. For children and those who abstain, she offers a simpler drink, warm milk scented with nutmeg and a touch of honey. In a world where sugar remains an expensive luxury, honey is the sweetener of choice. And nutmeg, once more costly than gold, has become precious but no longer unobtainable. A few grated flakes in warm milk create a treat so soothing it nearly melts the winter from your bones. Moving deeper into the square, we pass the famed Lebkuchen stalls once again. But now we pause longer, for no account of Nuremberg's Christmas flavors is complete without exploring the city's beloved spiced gingerbread. The recipe, protected by guild laws, is a careful balance of ground nuts, warming spices, honey, and candied fruits. Flour is used sparingly, which gives the bread its soft, dense texture. In 1670, the Lebkuchen bakers, known as Lebkuchner, are respected artisans whose craft is passed down through families. Frau Hildegard, whom we met earlier, lifts a tray of freshly baked Lebkuchen from a wooden rack. The steam rising from them carries notes of ginger, cloves, anise, cinnamon, and citrus peel. Her daughters pack the gingerbread hearts into parchment, tying each with a simple string. The icing is minimal, just a few patterns and swirls, but the aroma is everything. People buy them not only for their own families, but to exchange as tokens of goodwill with neighbors and friends. In the harshness of winter, a warm spiced loaf is a gesture of true generosity. Near the Lebkuchen stalls stands a booth filled with rows of honey cakes. Frau Margarete, a beekeeper's wife, sells golden rounds of Honigkuchen, their surfaces glossy and slightly sticky. Honey has been central to German baking for centuries, long before sugar became commonplace. She describes how her husband tends the hives through spring and summer so that families can enjoy these cakes when winter wraps the world in white. She offers samples, small squares that dissolve on the tongue, sweet and soothing. A few stalls over, a butcher roasts smoked sausages for hungry travellers. The smoky scent mingles with the spices and sweetness of the surrounding booths, creating a chorus of aromas both hearty and festive. The sausages sizzle as they hit the hot iron pan, sending up tiny pops of fat that dance in the air. He serves them sliced, nestled inside small rolls that steam in the cold air. For working families, a warm sausage roll eaten with bare hands is a comforting, filling treat. We walk past a row of pots simmering with spiced broth, where onions, carrots, and herbs float in fragrant steam. These soups are humble but warming, perfect for market-goers who cannot afford the richer delights of the season. Even here, where luxury is scarce, a small cup of hot broth can feel like a blessing. As we wander, we notice something else. Families purchasing bundles of dried fruits, apples, pears, plums, to store for Christmas Eve preparations. In an era without refrigeration, drying fruit over low heat or in smokehouses is the key to preserving it for winter. These fruits will later be cooked into pies, mashed into spiced sauces, or added to warm porridges for Christmas morning. For many, fruit is the sweetest treat of the holiday. But perhaps the most evocative image of Christmas time in 1670 occurs not in the market, but in the homes beyond it. Imagine a modest timber-framed kitchen, low ceiling beams, a crackling hearth, iron pots hanging from hooks, and the soft glow of candles reflecting off copper pans. Snow drifts past the small window while a family prepares their Christmas feast. Goose, rubbed with salt and herbs, sits ready for the oven. Dried apples are simmered with honey and spices. A few precious walnuts rest in a bowl, ready to be cracked open. Children sit near the hearth, warming their hands, feeling the rare excitement of a holiday meal in a time when daily food is often simple. Everything they need, spices, candles, dried fruits, small gifts, has been gathered from the Christkindlmarkt. The marketplace is not simply a place of commerce. It is the beating heart of the season. It supplies warmth, nourishment, celebration, and hope. As we return to our place in the snowy square, a final wave of aromas drifts around us. The sweetness of honey, the warmth of wine, the spice of gingerbread, the comforting smoke of roasting sausages. All of it together feels like a warm blanket wrapped around the harshness of winter. Bellies full and hearts content, we now wander toward the evergreen and candle stalls, where traditions of winter light and greenery take root. Part 5. Traditions of Light and Evergreen. The scents of roasted chestnuts and spiced wine slowly fade as we drift toward the quieter edge of the Christkindlmarkt, an area where winter greenery is piled high beneath wooden awnings and where candlelight flickers like tiny guardian stars. Snow thickens in the air, falling more steadily now, catching in the needles of pine boughs and collecting in soft drifts along the booth edges. With every step, the world grows more serene, more sacred, as though we've wandered into the gentle heart of the season. The first stall we reach is tended by an elderly man named Herr Ulrich, whose beard is as white as the snowflakes settling upon it. He arranges bundles of evergreen boughs, fir, spruce, and pine, bound with twine, or simply gathered in fragrant piles waiting to be purchased. In 1670, greenery plays a vital role in winter celebrations. Villagers hang it above doorways for protection, weave it into garlands for mantles, and place sprigs inside windows to welcome good fortune. Ulrich smiles as a young mother selects a bundle of fir branches, her small daughter clutching a berry-studded holly sprig. He explains softly that evergreens have symbolized life and endurance for centuries, long before Christianity spread through these lands. In the deepest dark of winter, when so much of the world lies barren and cold, the evergreen's color remains. To ancient peoples, it represented hope, the promise that spring would someday return. Christian families in the 17th century Germany adopt these customs as part of their own traditions, seeing in the evergreen a reminder of everlasting life. As Ulrich ties the woman's bundle with twine, he murmurs a blessing for her household, a simple wish that warmth and peace may fill her home through the winter. A few steps away, another stall offers Advent wreaths, not quite in the form we know today, but already familiar. Circles of greenery adorned with dried flowers, little ribbons, and candle holders fashioned from tin or iron. Advent, the 4-week season of waiting before Christmas, is deeply meaningful in 1670. Families light a candle each Sunday, gathering around a table to pray, sing hymns, or simply reflect on the coming of Christmas Eve. For many households, those quiet evenings become the emotional center of the season. We pause at one particular wreath, a ring of pine wrapped with dried rose petals and small apples. Its fragrance is soft and woody, and when the vendor lifts it, a gentle cascade of needles falls like tiny whispers. She explains that every element has symbolic meaning. Roses for love, apples for the fall redeemed by the coming Christ, evergreens for life eternal. The wreath is not merely decoration. It is a spiritual emblem woven from nature itself. Beyond the wreaths, customers gather at a stall filled with beeswax candles, each one a slender column of golden warmth. We met a candle maker earlier, but here the selection is even larger. Tall tapers for church celebrations, stout candles for home hearths, and tiny tapers intended for a more delicate purpose. the decoration of early Christmas trees. Yes, even in 1670, the concept of a Tannenbaum, or Christmas tree, is beginning to take shape in German homes. It is not yet widespread or elaborate, and it usually consists of a moderately sized fir or spruce brought indoors on Christmas Eve. Families might place apples, carved wooden ornaments, paper roses, or nuts among its branches. The bravest will add a handful of tiny candles clipped to the branches with bits of wire. Though used sparingly and lit with great caution, these candles cast shimmering halos of light that transform the small tree into a symbol of heavenly radiance. A father and his 2 sons stand before the candle stall now, debating how many tapers they might safely use this year. Their voices remain hushed, partly out of caution and partly out of reverence. Lighting a Christmas tree is not yet a routine practice. It is a quiet, almost sacred event, something done only briefly, often while the family gathers to sing hymns or read scripture. The boys' eyes widen as they imagine their own small tree glowing softly in their home. For them, that moment, brief and fleeting, is the very heart of Christmas. Not far from the candle vendors is a wreath maker, Frau Regin, arranging branches and ribbons into simple winter crowns. She shares an old belief with a customer that evergreens hung above entryways protect the home from wandering spirits of winter. Though most townspeople in 1670 do not literally fear such spirits, echoes of ancient superstition still linger in the culture, entwining with Christian meaning to form a tapestry of custom both practical and mystical. The people of this era live close to the natural world and to the mysteries of their faith. They see no contradiction in blending folklore with devotion. We wander on, and soon we find ourselves near the curtain stand, a small wooden booth run by local church members. They sell hand-copied hymn sheets, small wooden crosses, and simple nativity prints. Here, a young girl sings gently with her mother, practicing a Christmas hymn for the coming services. Her voice is light, almost fragile, but sweet as spun sugar. Nearby, a priest blesses a bundle of candles for an elderly couple who plan to use them during their Christmas Eve vigil at home. The sound of hymn singing draws us onward, and soon we reach a small open area near the edge of the square. Here stands a tiny chapel-like booth, its wood panels carved with stars and angels. Within it burns a single candle, its flame steady despite the cold. Townsfolk step inside one at a time, offering quiet prayers. Some bow their heads, others simply stand and breathe in the stillness. The Christkindlmarkt, for all its bustle and joy, holds space for reverence too. It is here, in this gentle corner, that we feel the deepest heart of the season, the desire for light in darkness, warmth in winter, and hope in a world often harsh and uncertain. The evergreens, the candles, the wreaths, they are not merely decorations, but reminders of endurance, faith, and the promise of brighter days. As we step back into the falling snow, the market once again swells with sound and movement. Yet something about this moment lingers. A quiet glow, a sense of peace wrapping itself around us like a warm woolen shawl. Ahead, we hear laughter and the light patter of small boots running across the snow. Children are gathering, their excitement bright as morning stars. Part 6. Children of the Market. The first thing we notice as we wander from the evergreen stalls is the sound. Bright, bubbling, unmistakably joyful. Children's laughter rings across the market square like little bells, rising above the quieter murmur of adults haggling, chatting, and greeting one another. Snowflakes cling to woolen caps and rosy cheeks as young ones dart between stalls, their boots slipping slightly on the packed snow, before they regain footing with delighted giggles. In a century where daily life can be stern and demanding, especially in winter, the Christkindlmarkt becomes a place where children are allowed to simply be children, curious, excited, and full of wonder. Near the centre of the square stands a small puppet booth painted with bright colours, red, green, and gold swirling together in patterns reminiscent of illuminated manuscripts. Inside the wooden frame, a puppeteer named Herr Janko performs a short play using carved figures on strings. His puppet show tells the story of the Christkind appearing to a shepherd boy who has no gift to offer for Christmas. The shepherd's kindness, not his wealth, is the gift that shines brightest, the Christkind tells him. Children gather tightly before the stage, their mittened hands clasped together, eyes wide and sparkling in the lantern light. Each time the Christkind puppet sweeps gracefully across the stage, trailing shimmering ribbons, young viewers gasp in awe. The story may be simple, but it carries a message children of all eras understand. Kindness matters. Generosity matters. Next to the puppet stall, a group of children crowds around a woodcarver's table where small toys are displayed. Miniature horses, spinning tops, tiny soldiers, and carved animals. A young girl with blonde braids studies a carved fox in her gloved hands. She turns it carefully, tracing its fine grain with fascination. Her father leans down and whispers something in her ear, and she nods, her smile blooming like a lantern lit from within. Children's gifts in 1670 are modest. Wooden toys, gingerbread hearts, apples, or little dolls made of scraps of cloth. But each is treasured dearly, not for its material value, but for the love poured into it. A carved horse may be passed to a younger sibling years later. A gingerbread heart might be hung like an ornament until it becomes too brittle. A set of wooden animals could become the centerpiece of countless winter stories told on the floor near the hearth. A cluster of children now rush past us toward the food stalls. Their laughter mingles with the gentle hiss of roasting chestnuts. Many children in 1670 rarely taste sweets except at Christmas time. So the market represents a world of rare delights. Some buy small honey cakes with coins saved for months. Others receive warm cups of milk with nutmeg from their parents. A few fortunate ones nibble pieces of Lebkuchen so fragrant and sweet that it becomes a memory they carry with them their entire lives. Close by, a little boy named Lucas, likely no older than 7, clutches a gingerbread heart wrapped in parchment. The icing is simple but charming, a few white patterns curling around the edges like delicate frost. His mittened hand is small. The heart nearly fills it. He shows it proudly to a friend before taking the tiniest nibble imaginable, savouring it as though it were made of pure gold. Watching him, we can't help but smile. Just beyond the food stalls, children gather around an elderly woman sitting on a low stool beside a brazier. She is known simply as Frau Gertrude, the grandmother of the square. Every year, she comes to the Christkindlmarkt to share folk tales and riddles with the young. Some villagers joke that she is older than the market itself, though no one knows her true age. Her voice is soft, cracked like warm parchment, but still strong enough to captivate a circle of little listeners. Tonight, she tells stories of winter spirits and forest gnomes, of the Christkind wandering through snowy woods, leaving trails of starlight, of tiny angels that perch on rooftops during Advent to listen to the prayers of children. Her tales are threaded with both Christian faith and old Germanic folklore, seamlessly woven together in a way that feels ancient and comforting. Children lean forward, shoulders pressed together, breath visible in the cold air as she speaks. Even adults linger behind them, charmed by the timeless stories. Nearby, a group of children play a simple winter game, taking turns sliding small wooden discs across an icy patch to see whose travels farthest without tipping. Their joy is unrestrained, their laughter echoing through the square. Life in the 1600s is hard, especially for children who often work alongside their parents, or endure the harshness of winter with little comfort. But here, today, at the Christkindlmarkt, they are simply children, hopeful, wide-eyed, and full of life. A little farther on, we come upon a tradition that warms the heart more deeply than any cup of mulled wine. Several children gather near a small table where families can write short poems, songs, or prayers that children will recite on Christmas Eve in hopes of receiving a small blessing or gift from the Christkind. These prayers are not elaborate. Some ask for warmth for their parents or good health through the winter. Some ask for simple things: a wooden doll, a warm scarf, a book of hymns. One young boy, Jakob, writes his prayer carefully with a quill. He is slow and deliberate, tracing each letter with childlike seriousness. His mother places a gentle hand on his shoulder, steadying him. When he finishes, he folds the parchment and tucks it into his coat as though securing a treasure. On Christmas Eve, he will whisper this prayer by candlelight, eyes closed, believing with all his heart that the Christkind hears him. And perhaps, in the realm of spirit and story, it does. As the day stretches on, the snow deepens. Children begin to grow tired, but even as exhaustion settles in, their wonder remains bright. Families gather them close, tucking them into woolen cloaks, whispering promises of hot soup and warm hearths waiting at home. The Christkindlmarkt, for all its crafts and foods, shines brightest through the eyes of these children. Their joy transforms the market into something more than a collection of stalls. It becomes a place of magic, a refuge from hardship, a promise of light, a glimpse of Christmas as children see it, pure, hopeful, and shimmering with quiet wonder. Ahead, the light is beginning to change. Evening approaches, and with it, the soft glow of candlelight spreading through the square like a warm sigh. Part 7. A winter's blessing, Christmas Eve approaches. As the afternoon softens toward evening, a gentle hush spreads across the Christkindlmarkt. The once busy lanes quieten, not from dwindling visitors, but from a shifting mood, a reverence settling over the square like a soft woolen blanket. The sky, pale and wintry all day, begins to deepen into shades of violet and blue. Snow continues to fall in delicate patterns, each flake catching the faint golden glow of lanterns. The market is still alive. Children sip the last of their warm milk. Merchants speak in soft tones, and families finish gathering what they need for the days ahead. But there is a clear sense that the day is winding towards something sacred. Christmas Eve is near. we wander back toward the center of the square, where the Schöne Brunnen, the beautiful fountain, stands tall and silent. Its sculpted figures, dusted with snow, seem to watch over the market like patient guardians. Candles have been placed around its base, flickering lightly in the gathering twilight. Their reflections glimmer on the frosted stone, tiny sparks safeguarding the deepening night. Just beyond the fountain, Herr Fulk, our tinsmith from earlier, begins to pack up his lanterns. He takes his time, wrapping each one carefully in cloth. "They will shine tomorrow night," he murmurs to a customer, when families gather to welcome the Christkind. His words feel like a blessing, weightless but warm. Across the way, Frau Hildegard and her daughters Tai closed their final bundles of Lebkuchen, their breath rising in soft clouds. They planned to deliver a few leftover loaves to neighbors who could not afford to visit the market. Acts of charity are woven naturally into the season. Quiet kindness that rarely gets spoken of publicly, but is deeply felt by all who receive it. As we drift along the snowy paths, families begin turning homeward. Fathers carry small fir trees over their shoulders. Mothers cradle baskets filled with candles and bread. Children clutch their precious market treasures with fingers stiffened by the cold. Every direction we look, lanterns bob through the dusk like floating embers, tiny moving stars guiding families back to their hearths. In a side alley of the market, we find young apprentice Lucas, the woodcarver, closing his stall under the watchful eye of his master. Lucas wraps a wooden horse, the same one he carved earlier, before tucking it into his coat. "For my sister," he says shyly when he notices our glance. The pride in his voice carries a warmth that stands firm against the encroaching chill. We continue walking, and soon the sound of music drifts to us on the cold air. A small group of musicians has gathered near the edge of the square, where the timber-framed houses cast long shadows. A lute, a recorder, and a soft-voiced singer join together in an Advent hymn, one carried through generations. "Nun komm, der Heiden Heiland. Now come, Saviour of the nations." Their song is soft, unhurried, and full of longing. People pause to listen, heads bowed, hands clasped, lanterns softly flickering at their sides. Even the falling snow seems to slow its descent, as if pausing in respect. Further along, a small chapel stall begins to fill. Inside, a priest prepares for the early evening blessing. He lights a single beeswax candle and invites families to step forward, one by one, to receive a quiet prayer for warmth, health, and peace in the coming days. Their shadows stretch long behind them as they kneel, illuminated gently by candlelight. This is the essence of Christmas Eve in 1670. Not grand displays or lavish gifts, but intimate moments of reflection shared with family and faith. The people of this time carry an earnestness that feels both grounded and tender, born of hard winters and simple joys. Every light matters. Every shared warmth matters. As twilight deepens, the market's lanterns are lit anew, rows upon rows of tiny stars bursting into golden life. They illuminate the falling snow, transforming each flake into a spark of light. The Christkindlmarkt becomes a world unto itself, suspended between heaven and earth, shimmering with grace. We pause near the evergreen stalls once more. Herr Ulrich is finishing his final sale of the day. A young couple chooses a wreath woven with pine, holly, and dried apples. and Ulrich blesses it with a quiet phrase. May your home be warm and your hearts be full. The couple smiles, their breath curling in the cold air, before slipping into the dusk. The snow grows deeper as night settles in earnest. A few children run ahead of their parents, leaving tiny trails of footprints that disappear moments later under fresh snowfall. Their laughter still rings, but softer now, gentled by the hour. A sense of calm spreads across the city as families retreat to their homes. We follow them in our imagination, stepping inside one of those warmly lit houses near the market square. The timber door creaks as it opens, releasing the scent of herbs, roasted meat, and glowing hearthwood. Candles flicker along the mantel. A small fir tree stands in the corner, plain but beautiful, with apples and hand-cut paper roses nestled among its branches. Near it sits a humble nativity scene. Carved figures, a straw-lined manger, an angel watching from above. A family gathers around the table, lighting the single Advent candle reserved for this night. Shadows dance on the walls. Hymns float softly across the room. Outside, the church bells begin to toll, their deep tones echoing through the snowy night, announcing that Christmas Eve has come at last. Back at the Christkindlmarkt, the last lanterns are being extinguished. The stalls lie quiet under the falling snow, resting until morning. Only the fountain remains lit, its single candle flickering steadily like a beacon of hope in the darkness. As we leave the square behind, our footsteps scarcely disturb the fresh layer of snow. The world is quiet, peaceful. A winter's blessing lingers in the air, gentle as the kiss of snowfall, bright as candlelight, warm as the hopes that fill every home on this holy night. And now, only one thing remains: the soft glow of midnight and the arrival of Christmas itself. Conclusion. The bells of midnight and the Christkind's blessing. The snow has thickened into a soft, steady curtain by the time midnight draws near. Most lanterns across Nuremberg have been extinguished, leaving the streets lit only by the faint glow of candles in windows and the occasional flicker of embers from a hearth. The Christkindlmarkt rests now, its rows of wooden stalls sleeping beneath a silvery blanket of snow. What was loud and bustling hours ago has hushed itself into a dreamlike stillness. In the dark, the city feels softened, blurred around the edges, like a memory or a painting half lit by moonlight. And then, just as the final moments before midnight tick silently past, the first bell tolls from the Frauenkirche. Its deep note ripples out over the rooftops, trembling through frosted beams and sloping gables. One by one, other bells answer. Large bells, small bells, tower bells, chapel bells, each adding its voice to the night. The entire city becomes a symphony of bronze, ringing out across the snow-covered hills and echoing through the valley beyond. Even the falling snow seems to pause in the air, suspended between the earth and the heavens. Inside the homes surrounding the square, families rise quietly from their tables or beds. Some light a new candle. Others gather near the window to listen. A few open their doors, just a crack, to let the cold, blessed air slip inside. In 1670, Christmas Eve is not a time of noise or celebration. It is a time of reverence, of soft wonder, and of hearts open to hope. Our imagination follows the bells as they roll over the city and drift toward the quiet corners of Nuremberg. We peek inside one modest home near the market square. The small fir tree in the corner has been lit with just 2 candles, tiny flames that flicker gently, illuminating the carved nativity and casting golden halos on the straw. The children, sleepy but determined to stay awake until midnight, have gathered around the tree in their woolen nightshirts. Their mother reads a familiar scripture passage, her voice warm and tender. Their father places a small carved angel beside the Christ child in the nativity scene. And when the bells reach their peak, the children whisper their little prayers to the Christkind, each one folded in hope and wonder. Perhaps, in some quiet, unseen way, the Christkind listens. Outside, the snow continues its descent, laying a fresh layer of purity over the silent market square. The fountain at the centre, Schöner Brunnen, stands like a sentinel in the moonlit whiteness, its carved saints and figures gleaming faintly. Only 1 candle burns at its base now, a small flame defying the cold. As the bells slowly fade, a new softness fills the air, a sense of peace so complete that even the night holds its breath. Families return to their hearths. Children slip beneath thick blankets. Candles are extinguished one by one. And soon, the entire city nestles into a deep, holy quiet. Tonight, Nuremberg sleeps beneath a blessing of snow. Tomorrow, the Christkindlmarkt will wake once more. But for now, the world rests. And as we step gently back from this moment in time, leaving behind the lantern-lit alleys and the warm aroma of the market, we carry with us the heart of the story, the warmth of togetherness, the comfort of simple joys, and the enduring hope that light always returns in the darkest seasons. If your own eyes are growing heavy now, let them close. Let the soft glow of candlelight drift through your thoughts like falling snow. Let the quiet blessing of this ancient Christmas soothe you into rest. Thank you for wandering with me through the snowy streets of 1670, through the market stalls glowing with life, through the tender rituals of families long ago. May the spirit of that Christkindlmarkt stay with you, warm, gentle, peaceful, wherever you are tonight. And before we part, a simple note. If you'd like to enjoy holiday history videos ad-free with early access and extras, you can join us over on Patreon. Your support helps keep these cozy bedtime journeys alive. For now, though, rest. Let the bells fade into silence. Let the snow fall softly. And may the Christkind's blessing follow you into the sweetest sleep. Good night, dear listener.